Welcome everyone. Today's topic is the biggest stage with auction properties. What is it and how? Okay, so let's just dive into it. There's a lot of confusion when people talk about auctions, right? Because there are going to be two types of auctions. The first auction is the judicial auction, and it has multiple names. Phil, if you could please type them in the chat. So it could be judicial sale, sheriff sale, or trustee sale, and it's all the same. Okay, it's all the same. So what it means is that in the foreclosure process, when the homeowner is unable to pay the mortgage, they're going to enter the foreclosure process, and at that point, um, it can take up to 2 years before the bank forecloses on the owner, because the bank needs to go through the court system. In Illinois happens to be a judicial state, so lenders have to go through the court system. That is why it can take up to 2 years. About half the way through the foreclosure process, then the judge is going to issue the auctioning date for the property. Okay, so at that point, the owner is going to have about 90 to 120 days before their property goes to the judicial auction at the courthouse. So at that point, let me tell you, the problem with the judicial, sheriff, or trustee auction, it's all the same thing. It happens physically at the courthouse, okay? So the issue there is that you have to pay cash for the property, you buy sight unseen, and you're competing against other investors. So the likelihood of you overpaying for the property is pretty high. Not only that, but there are groups of investors, okay, that they're buying bulk and they have tons of cash. So you're pretty much going to be eaten alive. So it's my recommendation, if you are a newbie or a medium investor, not to buy properties there, because even if you had the cash, it's just too risky. Many investors have bought second lien mortgages. Okay, so pretty much they're in the hook not only for the first lien, but also for the second, but also for the first lien. So you could end up losing your shirt. It's just totally not worth it. Either you intercept the property beforehand by talking to the owner that is in pre-foreclosure, or when they get the notice of trustee sale, meaning when the judge tells the owner your property is going to go for the judicial auction in about 90 days, you're going to know about that through ChicagoDealVault. So in those two phases, you can intercept the property, talk to the owner. The advantages are that you have zero competition. You get to see the property from the inside, and you can finance the property. So you can use either a hard money lender or a private money lender. So there are many advantages of intercepting the property before, but you don't want to be at the judicial auction. Okay. So now, what happens at the judicial auction at the courthouse? Very simple. People are beating each other, and if the property doesn't get sold to an investor, then it becomes an REO. What it means is that the bank is going to take over the property. So pretty much every property will have a reserve price. What it means is that the bank has an outstanding balance, right, for the property that the owner defaulted. So sometimes that happens to be the reserve price. Some other times it does not. So for instance, let's assume the owner owes 100,000 on the property, but the property is worth 200,000, right? So the owner has a lot of equity, so the reserve might be 120,000. Okay, so the bank wants to recoup 100,000, that is the outstanding loan, plus 20,000 for court fees, attorney's fees, and so forth. So the bank's reserve is 120,000. So when the bidding starts at the judicial auction, it needs to hit that 120,000 as the reserve. So unless the reserve is met, they're not going to sell the property. Okay, and then the property goes back to the bank. And then at that point, so two things are going to happen. If the reserve is met, the property is going to be sold to the highest bidder. And if the reserve is not met, then automatically it becomes an REO, bank-owned property. So now what happens if it's sold to a third-party investor? Okay, so they have about 30 to 45 days to get the deed. It's called the trustee deed because the owner has what's called a redemption period. So they have about 30 to 45 days to, even if they lost the property at the judicial auction, to still buy it back. But they have to pay court fees, outstanding balance. So over 99% of the chances they will not be able to redeem the property. So then the deed goes to the highest bidder. Okay. Now the second option is if it became a bank-owned property, then what is the bank going to do with the property? Because the bank is not in the business of real estate, right? The bank is in the business of lending. They make money on loans, not real estate. So the bank is going to send the properties to the MLS and to the auctioning sites, such as I have them up, Hubzu.com, auction.com. These are the two biggest ones. There are a couple of more, like Zone.com, Hudson and Marshalls, and Williams and Williams. But Hubzu and auction.com are the two biggest online auctioning platforms. So at this point, all these properties are bank-owned properties. Okay, so they belong to the bank. So here, it's pretty much as the same concept as the judicial auction at the courthouse, but this is an online version of it. You're going to be bidding against other investors. Not only that, some of these companies have what's called a proxy bidder, which is an employee of auction.com, for instance, bidding against you. So they want to max out their offer, right? So they want to make sure that the reserve is met before they sell the property. So you might be bidding against the company itself, auction.com. The objective is to reach the reserve price. And oftentimes you won't be able to see the reserve price on these websites. So that's the problem. And many of these websites, you're going to need to pay a buyer's premium, which is about 2-3% of the purchase price. So let me just give you an example. So we're going to search for properties, let's say in Wheaton, Illinois. Okay. Auction date, okay, Bankton. So this is going to be February 23rd through the, let's open this up. So this is coming up. Okay, for sale. So as you can see, estimated value, sometimes they tell you what they believe the property is worth. So this property has 5 pictures. Let's just quickly look at the property. So it looks like this is a townhome, but let's just go back and see what this is. Okay, so investment property, so reserve. So if I click here, this is the lowest acceptable price by the seller, meaning by the bank. Okay, and then you have the option to get notified about this when the reserve is met. But the problem is that you don't see what the reserve price is. Okay, opening bid to be determined. Rental estimate 1,800. Okay, so now let's go into the property detail. So it's a townhome. Okay, now let's scroll down to the bottom. First look program. Okay, so let me show you. So the bank has already listed the property in the MLS, so you do have the option to get in touch with the listing agent to get access to the property, which is good. You see interior access, yes. Okay, so access is available through listing agent Koya Smith. Okay, so Koya Smith happens to be Ryan Smith, who happens to be part of ChicagoDealVault. Okay, so he is one of the biggest REO brokers in Illinois. Okay, so Koya Smith is Ryan's mom, and she is a managing broker. Okay, he is from Remax Broker Co-op. So if there's a broker that brings a buyer, they're going to get a commission 2.5. So pretty much if you want to see the property, you've got to reach out to Ryan. And then buyer's premium, 2,500. So this is what I was talking about. What it means is that when you register for the auction, they're gonna place a hold on your credit card for 2,500. Financing, yes. Okay, so this is good. That means that you can bring a private money lender or a hard money lender, because oftentimes financing is not available. What it means is that you have to pay cash for the property. So this is good. You can see the property from the inside, and you are going to be able to schedule a showing with the agent. So you can reach out to Koya Smith, in this case to Ryan Smith, to get access to the property. Okay. Now the question is, if you're looking at this property, this is like going to the casino, right? Even before bidding, you have to know your numbers, right? You have to know your max offer. You have to have an idea of what the rehab is going to be, obviously until you see the property. So this is banked on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly search this property in Chicago DealVault. Okay, so I'm going to do a power search on it, because I would like to see what we come up with on this property. So I'm going to do a power search. I'm going to put in the address. That's in Wheaton. And there's a question right here, Robert. Rob, at the judicial auction. Okay. So this is a really old listing. Yeah, this is back from 2013. So this is really, really old. Let me see. Rob is asking, at the judicial auction, do they typically open up bidding at the bank's reserve? Great question. No, the opening bid is way lower. So if let's say the reserve is 100,000, they're going to start the open bid maybe at 50,000. Okay, and then they typically do increments of 2,000 or so. Another question. Okay, great question, Rob. So let me see if we find, Phil, can you please send me the password for the MLS via private chat? So I'm going to do a search for this property on the MLS as well. Okay, I'll get the password and we log in onto that one. So if you start bidding, we're going to look for other properties that are going to go to auction very soon. So now let me show you Hubzu. Hubzu, let's look for Wheaton, okay? Wheaton, Illinois, and see what happens. Okay, so West Chicago, so they don't seem to have anything in Wheaton. They have auctions. Okay, so for instance, this property is coming up for auction in 3 days. This is in West Chicago. Okay, so it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So in this case, so check this out. The auction is going to happen in 3 days. This is banked on property. Okay, 3 days, 20 hours. Starting bid, 159,000. Okay, cash only, no. So that means that you can finance the property, which is great. Let's look at the pictures of this property in West Chicago. So it seems like it needs updating. So it's sort of outdated, but I would consider this a medium rehab, because you're going to need to do the bathroom and the kitchen, and obviously paint, flooring. So that's a standard. So the square footage, based on the square footage of this property, the rehab on this is going to be no less than 35,000. Okay, so the way that I compute that is I take the square footage times $20. That's 22,000, and I add about 10,000 cushions, so 35. But if there are some unexpected items, this could hit 45,000. Okay, for the rehab. Now, let me see what else we have. Property details. So here you're going to get more of the details. So check this out. This property is already on the MLS. Okay, so this is what I was telling you. The banks are going to send it to both the MLS and to the auctioning platforms. So let me log on to the MLS and show you both properties. So I'm logging on to the MLS. I'm gonna look for this property on the MLS. Let me see if they have a listing ID for this property. No, they don't. So let's start with the Wheaton one, and then we're gonna move on to the West Chicago. Let's look for this property on the MLS. Okay, whoa, they have, so this is active new. So this is gonna be a little bit difficult. Well, I have an active and a new one. Let's see if it matches. Unit 2-3. I think that's what it is, 2-3. So this is gonna be it. Okay, so let me take a quick look. Let me go to the bottom and see if the listing agent is Ryan Smith. No. Oh yeah, Koya Smith. Yeah, absolutely. Koya Smith, co-listing broker, Koya Smith, Remax Properties. Okay, so this is REO, lender owned. Okay, so yeah, this is the property. So we could get access to this property. So look, listing price 179. It doesn't mean that that's what the reserve is. So let's take a quick look at the pictures of this property. Okay, so it looks pretty nice. Yeah, it looks very nice. It doesn't seem to need much work. Even the kitchen. It's got the appliances and the bathroom. So this would be an example of a light rehab. Look at the bathroom. So it may need just the mirror. But other than that, look at these. So this is looking like really good, in good shape. Okay. So what we're gonna do is let's find out. Let me look this up by the MLS ID on ChicagoDealVault. So I'm gonna go to the MLS search because what I want to know is what the numbers look like. Phil, can you please make a note of this MLS ID? I'm gonna send it to you because we wanna make sure that this comes up on ChicagoDealVault. Okay. So let's go back to auction.com. So yeah, that's absolutely the property. So they're listing it for 179. Okay, so what I'm going to do is auction starts in about 12 hours. Okay, so if I register for the auction, check this out. First, let's verify your ID. Okay, so they're gonna ask me for driver's license, ID, or passport. Let me see. Please wait. Okay, so it's driver's license, take a photo, upload the file. Okay, so you'll need to verify your ID. This is something new because I'm already registered with them. So in this case, before you start bidding on the property, you want to reach out to the listing agent, like in this case, Koya Smith, because you want to see the property from the inside. This property looks really, really good. Okay, so it's listed for 179. Now this is a townhome, HOA. So we would need to see the assessment. So the assessment is $514 on this property. So we would need to run the numbers to see if it makes any sense at this price. 179 seems quite high. Okay, let me continue reading below. Okay, offer submission signed. Okay, so this is the one in Wheaton, 179. Phil, can you please look into this address to see if we can analyze this on ChicagoDealVault? I'm gonna send this to you via private chat. So Team Queen, it says you can rent it. Okay, so the owner with fire price. So Team, you said you can rent it, though, or you cannot rent it. Okay, so association may not allow rentals, and yeah, that could be a problem. But anyways, the price seems quite high. Okay, 179,000 for a townhome, where the assessments are 514. It doesn't seem to make sense, because let me tell you, friends, you have to have $100,000 spread. Okay, when you buy a property. In this case, this property doesn't need much rehab, so you need at least 50 to 60,000 spread between these 179 and the ARV. Okay, so we would need to do put some comps on condos that are two bedroom, two bath. Okay, this is a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, to be able to see if it makes sense. But in my opinion, this seems priced, because for 180, you can buy a single family home, okay? And then you're gonna be able to command higher rents. The problem here is that the assessment is way too high. So this is gonna kill your cash flow. Okay, $500 in assessment kills your cash flow. And as Tim was mentioning, you may not be able to rent the property. Okay, so that could be a big problem. So let's go back to Hubzu, and then let's look at this West Chicago property. So in this West Chicago property, let me see if I can place a bid. Yeah, so let's place a bid on this one and see what happens, so that I can show you what it's like. So the auction is going to happen on within 3 days. Okay. So profile completion. So in this case, user verification and verified. As you can see on the back, on the top, it says contact information, bid deposit hold. This is what I was telling you. They're gonna charge my credit card $2,500, but it's just a hold. There is not a charge. And then place the bid. Okay. So add new profile. Yeah, I would need to get a code. Okay, so you would need to go through the process to place a bid. But before you even place a bid, step number one, you've got to understand the market, right? West Chicago and this particular property. Analyze it, because you need to know if 159 makes sense, right? So let me go back to ChicagoDealVault and do a power search on this one. Okay. It's not even on the MLS. Let me see if I copied the right address. Yeah, 29 West, 330 Pomeroy Street, West Chicago. So it's not on the MLS, it's nowhere, okay? This property. So we would need to do some comps on 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and see if it makes sense. But again, you always want to buy properties below 150, and they need to appraise. In this case, this is a medium rehab. This would need to appraise for at least 250,000 for it to make sense, okay? Let me see if there are any questions on the chat. Okay, no questions. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is that these are the main websites. So the way we've done it in the past is, before we make a bid, we're gonna need to take a drive to physically see the location of the property. And before we do that, we're gonna need to understand what West Chicago or Wheaton is all about, okay? Because you need to understand the area and make sure that the area supports your exit strategy, whether you're going to do a flip or a buy and hold. So let me just quickly pull this up in ChicagoDealVault just to quickly show you what the areas west mean. So West Chicago, it's a B area and it supports cash flow right here. And then Wheaton, let me pull up Wheaton. And this is areas analysis. It's an A area. It supports flips. So that's the first thing that you need to understand. So these are both great neighborhoods, West Chicago and Wheaton. Ideally, you want to stick to single-family homes versus townhomes or condos because you're going to be ruled by the bylaws of the association. And in the one from that we saw in Wheaton, the 500 assessment per month will kill your cash flow. So the West Chicago one is more promising. So that's one thing. Let's quickly go back to the auctions, and then I want to show you another example. So let's do this. This one is in LG. Okay, so because I want you to get a hang of it. So look at this one, occupy, do not disturb. Okay, so that's a big deal. Occupancy is important because if you're gonna use hard money lenders, guess what? They're gonna need to do an appraisal on the property, and if it's occupied, you may not have access to it, so you won't get funding. And even if you get funding, let's say through a private money lender, the issue is that you may not get occupancy of the premises anytime soon, right? There's a moratorium. Biden is pushing till September for evictions. So that could be a big problem. I highly recommend not to buy occupied properties. But again, guess what? This is not 100% accurate. You have to do due diligence. You have to go to the property, drive by, verify that it's occupied, because guess what? Oftentimes it's vacant, even though it says occupied. And not only that, but if it's a great deal, you could try to negotiate a cash for keys deal before you start the bidding. Okay, so that's part of the due diligence on this property. There's only one property, one picture right here. So not much in this property. So in this case, cash, earnest money deposit greater than 3%. Buyer's premium, 5% of the bid amount. Okay, so this is gonna be paid by the buyer, the buyer's premium, 5%. So you need to add this as your expense when buying a property. Let me see. Now, something important to mention that in Hubzu, if you back out of the deal 2 times, they're gonna blacklist you. Okay, you won't be able to bid again in Hubzu. So you really have to, meaning that you're the winning bidder and then you back out of the deal. So you have to be very careful, do your due diligence ahead of time. Okay, Hubzu. Let me show you another one. It's XOM.com. So we bought properties from XOM.com as well. This is another big one. Okay, let me see if I can log in. Don't remember my password. So let's do a search, auction only. So we're gonna search in Wheaton since we're there. It's a great area. So let me show you now XOM.com. Okay, 49. So they are not, okay, here we are. So they're not, I'm not seeing anything in Wheaton. So they're nearby Wheaton. Well, let me just cash only. So this one, on this website, as you can see, they're telling you the financing type. So they're banked on, all of them, but most of them are going to ask you for cash. Okay, so that's a problem, because even if you have the money, you wanna borrow, okay, from an asset-based lender like a private money lender or hard money lender. Okay, so let me just go into one to show you. Okay, so time remaining 18 hours on this property. Current bid 58,000. Bid now 59. Okay, cash only. Okay, listing agent. So when you see a listing agent, you are going to be able to reach out to the listing agent for a showing, okay, which is really, really important as part of your due diligence. But again, the issue is that you have to pay cash. So we like to buy properties financed, okay? Actually, in this case, yeah, it's cash only. And then oftentimes, you can call the auctioning platform, in this case, Zoom.com, because I've seen cases where it says cash only, but you're still able to finance, okay? So in my experience, you always have to double check if you can finance the deal, okay? So don't go by everything that is in here because it might not be 100% accurate, okay? So you might be able to finance through a hard money lender or private money lender, and also the occupancy status is not always 100% accurate. Even though it says vacant or occupied, it might be vacant. Okay, super, super important. Um, okay, so let's go back and see if you have any questions so far. Yeah, let's analyze. There's a question. How can you tell if the area supports a flip versus a cash flow? High rents and absorption rate. Okay, so I'll explain that in just a second. Yeah, it may say vacant and it's occupied. Absolutely, that might be the case. So you always have to physically go to the property. Okay, super, super important. Okay, so now in ChicagoDealVault right away, when you look at the area, so like here, Wheaton, it says county area type A, that means it's a great area. Approach, it says flip, so it supports flips. That means that properties move very quickly in this neighborhood and the supply for inventory is low. So it's a great neighborhood for flips. If it says cash flow, that means it's a great area because rents are very high, but yet properties are affordable. So that could be cash flow. Okay, absorption rate, yeah, that's taken into account to consider a market if it's a flipping market. Absorption rate means that how quickly properties are selling every 30 days. Okay, so thank you, Xavier. Great question. So now let's go back and while I'm in ChicagoDealVault, let me quickly show you shadow inventory that we have here. So we have 100 properties, okay, right now. So these are all bank-owned properties that are going to the auctioning platform. So I'm gonna randomly pick one. Let me see if I can find a good suburb, maybe like Wheaton or West Chicago, just to be consistent. So this is Winfield, Posen, Downers Grove. This is in DuPage. Okay, and then target price. So I want to find something that makes sense. Aurora is also a great neighborhood. Let me see. Let me go to the next one. So these properties are banked on and they are going to the judicial auction, I mean, to the auctioning platforms very, very soon. So I'll show you how this works. We analyze these properties. Okay, South Springfield, East Moline, Sugar Grove. Okay, let's pick this one in Sugar Grove. Okay, oh, Schaumburg. That's a great neighborhood. Schaumburg, I think I clicked on next too fast. Let me go forward. So I'm gonna pick the one in Oh, Carl Stream. Oh, but that's, let me see, Sugar Grove. So let's look at Sugar Grove. Just quickly show you what Sugar Grove offers, because that's the first thing that you need to do. It's an A neighborhood, cash flow. Okay, Sugar Grove. Let me go back to this property. So in this case, we know what the reserve is for this property, 213, and the ARV is over 300,000. So here, this could be a great deal. Okay, because you see the spread, you pay 213 and this could be worth over 300,000. So you do have a spread of about $100,000. So let me quickly search this in Google, and this may be already in an auctioning site. Sugar Grove, okay. So Redfin Hubzu right here. So this is in Hubzu, okay? So this is gonna be a great example. So this property, let me see what it says. Okay, it's under review. Under review, cash only, yes, one picture, so there's not much. It says REO, occupied, no access or viewing on this property. This home is approximately 2,000 square feet, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Okay, please not disturb occupied. Occupied, cash only sale. Okay, so this property seems to be occupied, and then it's under review. So it says that the auction has ended. Okay, seller is reviewing the results. So in this case, if the auction has ended, there's not much we can do about it. Okay, if the auction has not ended, we have the ability to put it from the back door, paying the reserve price. In this case, paying $213,000. So I was just curious about this. But again, it says occupied in the system, which may not be 100% true. So you would still need to drive by the property. Okay. But this is the steps that you need to follow. Number one, understand the marketplace, what exit strategy it supports. Number two, if you have a spread, okay, always you need to have a spread before you even consider bidding, right? So you need to go to the property physically to verify occupancy. And then once location and everything makes sense, you always have to know your numbers ahead of time. Do you have a spread of at least 80 to 100,000 from the purchase price to the ARV? Okay, you need to know your max allowed offers. This is like betting on a casino, right? You need to know your max allowed offer. In this case, we would be able to pull this from the back door at 213, but the auction has ended, so this is going to be too late. But unfortunately, if it's occupied and you're not able to work with the owner or the whoever is occupying the property, then it's going to be very difficult. Okay, so we always skip these altogether if they are occupied. Okay, so let me just answer any questions that you may have on the chat. So can I get the recording? Yeah, of course, Luz. Are there any other questions on the line? I just want to make sure that you understand the difference between the judicial auction and the online auctioning platforms such as Hubzu, auction.com, which are the major websites. Okay. Now let's look for another example of a property. So here, let me go back, and then I'm gonna look in counties. I'm gonna go by the counties. So I'm gonna say DuPage. So I just wanna see all the properties that are in DuPage. Okay, there are 2 properties in DuPage. Okay, so this is in Carol Stream. So let me look up this property. This is a very big house in Carol Stream. But the problem with this is that the reserve is higher than what the ARV is. Okay, so this wouldn't make any sense, but just for example purposes, I'm gonna look this up on Google to see if it's already listed in one of the auctioning platforms. Okay, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, Xom. Okay, so it's listed in exam. Okay. So this property, let me show you. It says current bid is at 295. There are 17 hours remaining. Bid increment by 5,000. But again, what we need to see is you will have access to the property because there's a listing agent, okay, on this property. And again, let me scroll down to the bottom to see what else we can find out about the property. So the first step is to know the numbers. Well, guess what? This property, let me show you the pictures. It's going to be, I mean, it's pretty big, 5 bedrooms. Very, very large home. And it seems to be in very nice shape. Look at this, whoa, look at the kitchen. It's super, super, super nice. So you wouldn't need to do any rehab. Okay, it has tons of pictures. I'm sure the bathrooms, yeah, the bathrooms are super nice. Everything is gorgeous on this property. Okay, so the property, so you see the current bid is 295. So if we go back to ChicagoDealVault, this property is worth close to 400,000. Okay, but the bank's reserve is like 400,000. Okay, so they are not going to sell it at nowhere near 300,000. So let me just for sakes. Oh, again, I need to log on. I don't. Let me do forgot my password and see if we can start bidding on this property. Okay, so I'll reset my password. Hey, Phil, can you please check the email at support and then send me the link to reset the password via the chat so we can reset the password and then place a bid on this property. Okay, yeah, ideally, I mean, if you can get this, I know that the bank is not going to sell it for less, but because the reserve is 400,000. Okay, let me see if they say anything about the reserve. And that's the problem, that over 90% of the times you will not know anything about what the reserve is. Okay, so we'll try to reset the password and place a bid on this. There's another question. How do you know the reserve price? That's the problem, Omar. You do not know from the auctioning sites, although we do know the reserve price on some of them, like this one, because we have a partner, Jacob from Texas, and he's able to send us the reserve price. But over 90% of the time, you will not know the reserve price. So we could pull these from the back door, but it's at 400,000. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, it's just too expensive. You would need to buy this property at somewhere in the 300,000. Like if you could buy this property for 300,000, it'll be a home run deal because you're gonna end up with 100,000 or 25% equity, and this property doesn't need any rehab. Okay, it's just beautiful the way it is, and it's a really big house. So I would like to place a bid and see what happens. Okay, but still, there are 19 hours remaining. So the way to place bids is you do it in the last minute, okay, before the auction ends. So super, super important. You don't want to start bidding like a day before because you're just gonna increase the current bid. So you wanna wait. And then once there's like a minute remaining, you place the last bid and they're gonna extend the bidding for about 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, so that's just to create the sense of urgency and get investors to overbid on the property. Okay, so 295, so 300,000. Current bid 295. Yeah, it's quite high. Okay, so are there any other questions on the line? You can inspect the property at the target price at any time as long as the auction has not ended. Yeah, absolutely. So what we like to do is we look it up on ChicagoDealVault under the shadow inventory, and we have to do the due diligence. We look for the property in the auctioning sites, and in the auctioning sites, we see that this is listed by this agent, right? So we have the agent's phone number, so we can call the agent to get access to it. But in this case, I mean, this property looks really, really nice, okay? Just by looking at the pictures, there's nothing to be done on it. But of course, what matters is that the numbers work, okay? Are there any other questions on the line? I just want to recap quickly. In the foreclosure process, you want to intercept the property before it goes to the judicial auction, okay? At the pre-foreclosure process, or when the judge issues the auctioning date. That happens half the way through the foreclosure process, between the 3rd and 12th month, okay? And then because once the property goes to the judicial auction at the courthouse, is where you don't want to be, because you have to pay cash, you're bidding against other investors groups, and you have to do pretty much run a title search to make sure that there are no liens on the property, like tax liens, village liens, because you might end up with a big problem and you can lose your shirt at the judicial auction. The cool thing about buying properties from these auctioning sites is that they're banked-on properties. When you buy the properties from the bank, you're going to get a special warranty deed. So the property has a clear title, so it's free of encumbrances, liens. So it guarantees that you won't have any claims from previous owners on the property, or any liens, nothing. So it's free, and that's huge, right? So the risk is less. And some banks are going to try to sell these properties for just to recover the outstanding balance and some extra fees for attorney's fees, holding time. So we've been able to find amazing deals from REOs, okay? Another question is, so these properties on the market, what happens if the market offers listing price? So this property, yeah, they can offer, since it's in the auctioning site, the person who offers the most is going to get the property. That's how it works. And they're going to have backup offers for the second highest bidder. But the problem is that this property, we know the reserve price is going to be close to 400,000, so it's just too high. Okay. Another question is, how do you go about doing a title search? You need to work with a title company, Mary, like Chicago Title, Fidelity, Investor Title. So they can do a title search for you, but you want to do a title search only when you are going to the judicial auction, because when you're buying these properties from the bank, you don't need to worry about that. I mean, when you close on the property, your attorney for sure will do a title search. It's critical, but you're going to end up with a special warranty deed. Okay, so you don't need to do the title search ahead of time. You're going to just do it before closing. But when you're going to the judicial auction, you have to do it before you start the bidding. Whereas when you do it from bank-owned properties, you don't need to do the title search before you start bidding, because you know ahead of time you're going to get a special warranty deed. So great question, Mary. Okay, are there any other questions on the line? So I just want you to understand a clear distinction between judicial, trustee, or sheriff auctions and online auctions. Two different ball games. Okay, at online auctions, you're buying properties directly from the bank, and these properties are going to be listed on the MLS and in the auctioning sites. Okay, so let me look up this property right here. Okay, so yeah, you see it's listed for 420. So let me give you a tip of advice. So this is a secret, okay? Hardly anybody knows this, so check this out. So this is the same property that we see in Zoom.com, so it's so beautiful, right? So look at the listing price. It's listed for 424,000, okay? So let me see who the listing agent is. Okay, so it's the one listed on Xom.com. Waldemar, that's the listing agent. So they listed it for 424. So there's a secret. When you see these on the MLS listed for 425, multiply that times 95%. So 424 times 95%, and that's going to give you a very good idea as to what the bank's reserve is. So they're going to list the price on the MLS for about 5% more than the reserve price. So if I was to not have the reserve price on the auctioning side, I'm going to come to the MLS and multiply the listing or the asking price times 95. So I'm going to have a ballpark idea of what the reserve is, meaning what the bank's bottom line is to sell the property. It's going to be 402. And if I go to ChicagoDealVault, it's 408, okay? But you're going to get a ballpark idea, right? So right now, the next bid will be somewhere in the $300. So the bank is not going to sell it nowhere near 300,000. It's going to go for over 400,000. So pretty much you're paying retail price for this property. So most likely no one is going to buy the property and it's going to recycle. So it's going to eventually this will pop back up in the MLS or another auctioning website. Okay. Are there any other questions on the line? Any other questions that has anybody bought properties from either auction.com, Hubzo.com, Xom.com? Anybody bought properties from these websites or from the judicial auction? Yes, Parvez. Okay, perfect. From judicial or from these online auctions? No, okay. So yeah, no, this is for sure a safe way to buy bank-owned properties. We bought the last 5 properties from Arios, so bank-owned properties. Super powerful. Kendall, yes. Like what websites did you guys use? Auction.com and Hubzu.com? Yeah. Parvez, quick question: were you able to finance the property, or did you have to pay cash for it? Sam, you bought 4 of them. Auction and Hubzu, perfect. Now, were you guys able to finance the property or did you have to pay cash? Finance, perfect. And then Parvez, let me finance, perfect. Now, let me ask you both, Kendall and Parvez, because we were always able to finance the property. Were you able, I mean, did it say cash on the financing, but yet you were able to finance the property using a hard money lender or a private money lender? Sight unseen, yeah, oftentimes you may not have access to the property. That's a good point, team. Thank you for bringing that up. Oftentimes, even though it's listed by the bank, you may not have access to see the property from the inside. So you need to peek through the windows, see if it requires a big rehab. In fact, we bought one in Cicero that we were not able to see the property from the inside, but our runner was able to do FaceTime from the windows, and they told me that it was in good shape. And in fact, it was in really good shape. So Pravez said, hard money once and private second time. I had access inside. Perfect. Kendall only bought when I could see inside. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, unless you can peek through the windows and see the condition of the property that looks fairly nice, it's too risky to buy a property without seeing it from the inside. Like when you're buying sight unseen, yeah, it's too risky. But great job, Parvez, Kendall. Again, this is my suggestion that either you buy it ahead of time. So in ChicagoDealVault, either you buy it through pre-foreclosures or upcoming auctions. So this is where you can intercept the property before it goes to the judicial auction. In this case, you're going to be dealing with the owner directly. And the cool thing about these leads that you can filter by high equity, meaning that you can find properties that the owner owes very little, but yet the property is worth a lot. So you need that big spread to be able to negotiate, make sure that it's a good deal for the owner, right? Because they also need some money for relocation it's a good deal for you, and obviously the bank gets paid off, and it never goes to the judicial auction. So again, pre-foreclosures and upcoming auctions, this is when the judge issues the date for the judicial auction. Upcoming auctions, that gives the owner about 3 months before their property goes to the judicial auction. So you have 3 months to negotiate with the owners. So these owners are going to be obviously more motivated to sell, and then you can filter by high equity. Okay, super powerful. So now, guys, are there any other questions on the line? I want to quickly summarize. Please make sure that in the foreclosure process, you intercept the properties either at the pre-foreclosure, okay? This happens about 3 months after the owner defaults on the mortgage. That's when the bank officially files a lawsuit against the owner, and it goes through the court system, okay? Pre-foreclosure happens 3 to 6 months once the owner defaults on the property. And then the next phase where you can intercept the property is when the judge issues the auctioning date. And then that's going to give the owner about 3 months. And so that gives you about 3 months for you to work with the owner. And they're going to be very motivated, because else they're going to lose their property. And if not, it goes to the auction at the courthouse. You don't want to be there, please. You have to pay cash, you have to do title search before you go to the auction, and you are bidding against the big guys, investors groups that you cannot compete against. So then you're better off waiting until it becomes bank-owned property, so that you can use auction.com, hubzu.com, exam.com, and you're going to be able to see the property from the inside and finance it, which is super important. But obviously, the numbers need to make sense. You have to have a spread of about 80,000. The rehab should be medium, meaning less than 50,000. And you always need to understand the marketplace. The area needs to support your exit strategy, and you always need to have that spread. Are there any other questions on the line? So if no further questions, I want to make an official invite. We've created 2 inner circles, wholesale and cash flow, okay? So let me just quickly tell you what this is. I'm gonna send the link via the chat to everyone. So what the objective for the cash flow inner circle is, we're gonna give you hands-on approach, okay? So you're gonna have a support network. We're gonna meet once a week. We're gonna have deal review sessions once a week, and we are going over so live meetings, live training. This is all virtually. These are some of our advisors. I'm sure you know some of them. And what's really cool is that we put together a 10-week module program. Okay, so we started last Sunday. We didn't complete module 1, but it's super, super cool, because we share our secrets on how you can build a rental empire. Okay, so if you're interested, please fill out the profiling form. So we're gonna get to know more about you, and then be able to put you in a team. Okay, it's super, super cool, super powerful, because this is what the inner circle looks like. So let me show you. We have put together cash flow inner circle. So this is what the online training looks like. Okay, so we have the roster, we have the org chart. So this is right now what it looks like. So we have about right now close to 50 people in the team. So we're gonna give you right here we're in week number 1 right now. Okay, so you're gonna have videos, you're gonna have actionable steps to take. Okay, so I give you very short minutes, very short videos on pretty much everything that you need to know. Okay, for essentials. We're in week 1 right now, and then you're gonna have for every section an actionable step, like in this case setting up with the right mindset. So let me show you. You're gonna have the handout for every section that you need to go over. So it's self-paced, that you have access to these, and on top of that, obviously we do deal reviews, and any resources that you need. we're going to make available for you. So it's super, super powerful. You can be part of either one of these two groups. So feel on the chat if you can please include also the landing page and the form for the wholesale inner circle. Okay, if you missed the meeting, don't worry, because we record the meetings and we're gonna upload the meetings into the portal that we have, okay? Phil, can you please make a note to let Natalia know to upload the recordings into this CASHFLOW Inner Circle portal, okay? So if you're interested, please fill out the forms that Phil sent via the chat, and I'm gonna be here to answer any questions. Do you have any questions on auctions, and do you have a clear understanding between judicial auction and the online auctions?